Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Pickled in the Stable. Today we're going to talk to Amira, Seb's mum, and my mother-in-law about her communication journey. That one's communication. Tell us about how Seb communicated without having an eye gaze.
Oh, well, that's a bit of a long journey, I think. You want me to go to the beginning?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess obviously, like all babies do, babies find a way of being able to communicate. And so I think, you, as we kind of went along, you kind of created, I don't know, you kept kind of having the same sort of gestures over and over for various... So you used to come up with, I guess, various little, quirky ways of being able to let us know that you were either happy or unhappy, or, we were on the right track or not. But you also, I think, had pretty good effective eye signaling, if you want to call it that. So you'd look at something and it was a pretty good indication that's what you wanted. So... And you had a good cry on you as well, I think.
It's you, darling. Do you want help?
What kind of things did I use growing up to communicate?
Oh, well, the very first thing would have been a Compic board. So for anyone who doesn't know what a Compic board is, it's I could be wrong, but I'm thinking there's universal pictures. They're called Compics. I don't know, because obviously we were just in Australia, so whether they're different across the world, I don't know, but essentially you'd have one cardboard board that had some pictures on it and was laminated, and that's kind of how you started, and it was pretty spaced out as well. So I think in most cases it was things like yes, no, like some basic things. And then from there you went to something a little bit more complex, which would be a Compic book. So that was, you have various pages inside of a book. And if you actually think about it, now it just popped into my head then. But the way something like an eye gaze or some of the computers that you used before having an eye gaze worked, you have to jump through pages, right? So if you actually think about it, what you needed to learn with that Compic book was you had to learn to go from page to page as well. And you take the different pictures and essentially it turns into a sentence, which turns into a conversation type of thing. So that was the next step. I'm thinking, let me see, really testing my memory, which is like, 25, 30 years ago. So the next one would have probably been probably a couple of things happened at the same time. Maybe Compic, like Compics on a computer, and jelly bean switches. So when they used jelly bean switches, what it means is there was like some scanning technology, and so it would scan around the computer and you would press the button when it's time to stop on a particular picture, or a yes or no or something like that. So there would have been that, but at the same time I think this would have been the time when you learnt to read and write. So reading and writing is definitely the key to you know, where you would be now, being able to communicate effectively. So while those Compic boards are really good, it also still limits your ability to say what you really want, because we're just basing it off a picture and a few different pictures. But I mean, if somebody can't learn to read and write, or can't read and write, still the Compic boards, I think, are a fabulous option. But definitely reading and writing, and then being able to form your own sentences and stuff is far superior in being able to communicate effectively. If you think about what that does, it's led to being able to, post on, Facebook, have conversations on Facebook, and do Instagram posting and all that kind of stuff, leading to this podcast even, so that's how far. Tell me when you want me to stop. So that was the next stage. And learning to read and write it can be quite difficult for people who can't speak. And I'm not exactly 100% sure of why. I mean, I haven't really looked into that in the last 20 or so years. I only know what I got told back then, is that because you're not speaking, you're not using the little words, the its and the dirts and all that kind of stuff. You're not saying them. So, we got told that was actually quite challenging for somebody. Whether it's believed true or not anymore, I don't know. I can only really tell you what our journey was with that. So from there, I guess once you started to learn to read and write, you moved on to the letterboards. And then, that's spelling everything out, which can be great. I mean, and if at a pinch you didn't have the letterboard available, you just get a piece of paper and you start writing the alphabet on it, right? But again, while that's fabulous, it's also a little bit on the slow side and reliant on the person who's reading the letters to form them into words, remember them, and then turn it into a sentence. So while you were brilliant at it, and most people who are spelling the words out are brilliant, it's definitely relying on the person interpreting that, having a decent memory and remembering it. And I gotta say, unfortunately, I think often we would forget halfway through what a word was. Or, forget through a sentence or something. So even then it would be easier to write that down. So I think once all of that had happened, that technology really sort of ramped up a bit, I think, at this point. And then you'd have various computers, and then when the iPad came along, that was definitely, thank you Apple, shout out to Apple, that was definitely a game changer, because the technology and the software all of a sudden became significantly less expensive and easier to use, and actually quite a bit less weird for other people. So it kind of bridged the gap, I think, because other children, instead of seeing this weird device that used to be hugely expensive, people would go, oh, she's using a tablet, and you'd have some special software on there. I can't really remember the name of some of those softwares now, but basically you'd load that on and off you go, and it's way easier to communicate. So I thought we were doing really well on those options, and then you went to a. Now, while I condensed that into a few minutes, these all took years to learn how to use. So kind of think of it as a movie. We've just shortened.
Assistant chat.
Oh yes, there would have been that too. There would have been a few different softwares. But yeah, all of these things took years to learn how to do, and then also it's a bit reliant on people's technical skills as well, and what do you do when things go wrong. So one day I believe you went to a disability expo, and there happened to be an eye gaze stall, and you were like, oh, I want to give that a shot, and remarkably you were able to use it really quite quickly. And I would say at that point it was an absolute game changer once you had that eye gaze. And I know that once you got your own and you brought it home, that we were all giving it a shot. And we used to get ridiculously tired, and we were not very good at it. So while it looks like it's easy, guys, it's actually not that easy to use. And not everybody who happens to have a disability and can't speak will have the option of being able to use it, because it does require a fair bit of eye control and head control. And yeah, so it can be quite complicated to use as well. And with people without a disability at home, we didn't have much luck doing it. So just trying to think some of the other things. There was actually quite a few years where you used the computer software, and you would have had your computer set up at home and been using software just off a computer that then would have allowed you to speak on, to send emails, and then also to use Facebook as well. So yeah, there's been a lot of things. So they're the best my memory can come up with. And we probably have remnants of all these things at home too. We probably have old Compaq boards and things like that, yeah. So
you have your old eye gaze somewhere in the spare room. Hardly works without charge anymore.
And letterboards, you know.
Yeah.
Because letterboards can actually still be quite effective when you're you're out and about. I think they're still quite useful. And also you can have some quick things like, yes, no, I'm hungry, I'm thirsty. So instead of having to spell everything out, you could just go for the things you use most often and, point to that exactly. Oh, so I just remembered them as well. But these all on pointing to things as well. So quite different from the eye gaze as well, where you're using your eyes. So this relied on you being able to, press things, use jelly bean switches, scanners, pointing with your finger. So arm control, control of your arm movements as well. So lots of things. But I will say though, I think that we're really, really fortunate, because I do know some people who are probably a bit younger than I am, who never really got the option to learn all of those things, and so therefore their ability to communicate has been significantly limited. So you're very lucky to have been born when you were in that particular era. So anyway, I hope that makes sense. Yeah.
Yep. Made sense. When did Sev first get an eye gaze?
Gosh, try to think about this by how old your brother was. Well, I think the first one you got, we were living in the house behind now, so it's got to be less than 15 years ago. Gosh, I don't know. Would it have been
2017?
That being the first one? No, I'm sure you would have had one sooner than that. Really? But then that's like only 8 years. Is that real?
Is that real?
8 years. I would have thought it'd been longer than that. Oh wow! If it does, I would have thought it'd been longer. Maybe it hasn't. Yeah, it was actually quite. It was quite a blessing to have that. It kind of. I would say that once you had that device in particular, or there might have been one just before that, that your vocabulary definitely expanded. because you had the ability to learn to spell more words. Then once you do that, then that is what allows you to then move into something like being able to train people, being able to, write training materials, because your language isn't as limited as it would have been previously. So that's why, again, I'll say that learning to read and write and taking the many years that takes, I mean, it takes many years for children in general, but for somebody who's then got the disability and those limitations on there, it takes even longer. And so it's just a matter of persist, so that you can build on that ability to read and write. Spelling is a tough one. I know it's tough for a lot of people, but yeah. Thank goodness there's things like predictive text these days as well. However, when it comes to predictive text, it'll only get you so far, because if you don't have at least some comprehension of how the word might start, like what letters it might start with or sounds, and what it might look like, you're still going to get stuck, because it's not going to come up with that word. So,
yeah. What? Me? What about me?
We've exhausted you.
No. I'm fine. What? Be cranky. I need to get you to read.
Reading. Have you got the hiccups, young lady? Did you want to be on the podcast? Did you?
I have to get you to read some words.
What are you talking about?
Oh, when you're trying to spell out things.
Oh, yeah. When we're in bed and you don't have your eye gaze, or like you don't know how to spell a word and I'm trying to like guess the word.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes that happens too. And I guess it's not quite the same as just being able to say a word out loud. You have to come up with something that sort of at least gives the person a hint as to what it is.
I can't. Or like if you're reading something and you're like, oh, what's that word? I don't understand that word.
Well, don't feel too badly. Sometimes I would read something and go, oh, well, that's that word. Anyway, it's always learning, depending on what what subject we're delving into.
You're right, Noki.
Now, you did go, I remember we went to Adelaide and you presented part of this, like a quite detailed presentation on your communication journey. I don't think that you had an eye gaze at that point. No, I think you were using a tablet or a communication computer at that stage, but no eye gaze yet. So I think that one, the computers would have been similar to the eye gaze. However, you use your finger to control them, because obviously they didn't have the camera, so you can control it with your eyes. It'd be nice to be able to find that that presentation that you did, but I don't know where it is anymore. It's probably on an old laptop somewhere.
Buried under something.
Probably somewhere. Don't think we were using Google Drives in those days either, or OneDrive, so it's going to be somewhere.
That's going to come out for a while, I think.
I know. Look at all this stuff that we've got now. It's just been absolutely insane the last 10 years.
Technologies just keep on growing.
Exactly.
Changing.
Yep.
Are you comfortable, Noki?
I think she is. And I've got my
I think.
my SeaWorld dolphin here, pink one. Thought I'd get into the pink because I wasn't wearing any pink except for my nails.
She's like, I'm very comfortable. I'm waiting for food.
At least she's being quiet.
You're a good girl. You're a good girl. Me, it's you.
Nobody knows who's asking me what.
Was there any challenges with my communication?
I would say that for you, we were pretty lucky because you were actually quite motivated. And you didn't seem to mind things being challenging or difficult. You, I know that it's for some people if you're not in that place where you don't mind a challenge and you're just going to keep pushing through, it's quite difficult because you go, well, I'm not getting anywhere, I don't want to keep trying. And this definitely is something you have to keep trying. You have to keep trying different options. Also, I guess, there's a level of memory that you need to develop as well to use any of these type of options, including the basic one like Compix. So I think between your motivation and willingness to do it and the other people like the therapists, and I don't know where you got your motivation to get things done from, but
I just wonder.
I don't know where that comes from, or didn't mind the challenge of doing things that were hard. But when you have those people around you who are supporting you and willing to go on that journey with you and keep making that effort, then it doesn't become something that's too overwhelming. But this definitely was a daily learning thing. It wasn't something that you just did, we'll just do it a couple of times a week. This was a day in, day out type of thing to learn these things. But I would say that it's paid off in the long run, right? Yeah. Never would have been able to get on Bumble and have your own private messages if you hadn't learned all this stuff, would you?
Oh, is there a fly knocky? Is that why you're freaking out?
There you go. Dogs are good at effective communication without words too. I'd say that most of our communication actually is non-verbal. I mean, you can Google that, but most communication is non-verbal. So
The support was helping me type.
oh, okay, there you go. But still, I mean, it has afforded you the luxury of being able to have some private conversations, right? There you go. So,
Mister, I know you guys are hungry. You're gonna have to wait.
sorry, we can't sit together anymore.
You're gonna have to wait a little bit longer, okay? You're okay. You're not starving away. You're not starving away. No. Oh, okay.
Okay, never mind. Okay.
Nolly, sit down. Good boy. Good boy. Next question. Where did Sev's no and yes with her eyes come from?
Oh. Yeah, I was thinking about that on my way over here, and the only thing I can think of is that that's kind of common for people to do that. And as a parent, when you're talking to a child or doing something and you're saying yes, what would you do? And you go no. And I guess that's something that somebody would learn to pick up. I suppose in different cultures, or maybe they don't do the same thing for yes and no. Maybe. I think a lot of people do though. But essentially I would have probably been doing this and this when talking to you. So you must have picked up the little nod and the for no and yes. So I think that's probably just how it happened.
Yeah.
And I guess even when you were in school, people would have done the thing. But I think you probably picked up the yes and no long before you even went to school. But there was some other... Did you want to know about the other things that you did as well? Well, there's other... well, I guess we call them gestures that you would have done for... interestingly enough, thirsty and sick are the same thing. Well, they're slightly different, but poking your tongue out, they're the same. And thinking, what else?
Where did saying I was hungry or thirsty come from?
Oh, right, okay, yeah, so that's... I don't know where they came from, but the hungry, I suppose the biting, well, I mean, think about it, when you're hungry you chew, right? So obviously that was something that you were able to do. I don't understand where the thirsty kind of makes sense as well, because you drink.
Yeah.
But the sick, I guess when people say they feel sick, they do go, I feel kind of blah. So maybe that's where it came from, I don't know. Because you've had them for so long now, it's hard to remember. If I realised I'd been a podcast 30 years later, maybe I would have jotted down some notes. Well, we didn't have them back then, did we?
No.
But yeah, I'm not sure. I think, again, it's probably just being picked up from things that adults would do, or the way that we talk, and we do kind of do those things. And
I guess like thirsty and kind of thirsty.
And I guess that you're able to do them and they're similar to what somebody else would have done, then you kind of go with what works, right?
Yeah.
But I think they're the main ones really, aren't they? And what am I saying with the yes? You also lift your eyes up. You don't even completely nod your head sometimes. I don't know.
That was an easy movement than nodding.
Yeah, too, I think when you've got a headrest and things on as well, or maybe you're not able to hold your head up so much, because that's another part of the equation, is that, when you don't have much balance and strength, and you're learning to keep your head up and things like that. So, yeah, that's, it's actually a lot of, looking from the outside, it might not seem like there's a lot of elements to this and it just comes naturally, but it actually doesn't. It takes a lot of work and a lot of years to develop that strength and that ability to do the various physical elements, and plus also the learning. So yeah, it's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Lucky we're persistent.
Yes, Noki.
And so apparently is Miss Noki. Wonder where she gets it from.
I can tell they're hungry. Hang on, Baba. Hang on. She's like, please.
Now here's doggy communication for you.
I'm starving. I'm wasting away over here. You're fine. You're fine, miss. I can't lolly. Oh, he's a bit worse. He'll whinge at you.
Yeah.
Hang on, babies. We're almost finished.
Perfect examples of communication. Non-verbal communication. And there we go.
Me? Was there any easy moments with Sev's communication?
Easy moments. Can I tell a funny story?
Sure.
Okay. I'm wondering if I should. I'm going to anyway. Okay. So when you can really, an easy moment was knowing when you wanted chocolate cake. And when your father was dangling chocolate cake in front of your face. I think he might have been watching football or something on TV anyway, and you leant forwards and bit. And it was like, oh, I think she wanted chocolate cake. Oh dear, I wish I'd never given you that chocolate cake back then too. So many things I wish I could take back. Oh dear. Easy moments. I think the easiest moment was that you did have quite a lot of motivation and persistence, and you never really tried to give up on learning communication. I don't ever recall there being a time where you were just like, nah, it's too much. In fact, we probably, myself and some of your teachers and therapists may have said, you know what, that's enough for the day. You better get some rest and we'll get back to it tomorrow. I don't actually think you ever said it was enough. So I would say that would be the easy part of the equation, that you were so persistent. It really does make it much easier than having to push someone to try to learn. So, and I think the other easy part was that we just kept, we were around people who were able to point us in the right direction and keep giving you the different options of trying what was working and, adjusting what may not have been working as well. So, yeah.
Can you tell us anything else that we might have missed with my communication?
That in the beginning they just had awful American generated voices, like really bad quality robot-y type voices. They're definitely much better now. What can I say about communication? Well, I guess, I would think that just in the last 30 years there's been so many changes, and even, learning, or even the ability to go on things like Facebook. I remember you were probably in year 7 or 8 and you went to a friend's place, and she basically had said, oh, have you tried being on Facebook? Well, once you'd kind of gotten on Facebook, well, the world really opened up. And I think that having the ability to communicate with people outside of the house and outside just being in your school environment and talking to other friends and family and stuff, really, once you can do those things, it kind of opens up your options and your learning increases significantly. It sounds easy to say all of this stuff, but I don't know whether people could really appreciate how much work and time it really does take, and how each little step, I would say that there was probably a moment where you probably were struggling and it wasn't making too much progress, and then all of a sudden, once you started to get some of these other devices, it really sort of, it's like a little trigger that meant that you could express yourself beyond just the limitations of those boards, and it all kind of just took off in a matter of months after that point. So yeah, it happened pretty quickly after that.
Yeah. Me? Hi there, just popping in to give you a quick shout out from our favourite sponsor. Yep, it's us. We're excited to announce that our merch store is officially live, and we've got some super cool designs that we think you'll love as much as we do. It's all inspired by our podcast tagline, because we believe in celebrating unique perspectives and owning your own story. You'll find the link to check them out down below in the description. Now, back to the episode. Enjoy. What are you looking forward to with AAC devices in the future?
Oh, well, I think we're a little bit stuck still with, some of the... It all depends on a person's ability, whether they can use, say, like their eyes for eye gaze technology, whether they can use their arms or hands. I mean, there's even switches, like you could use your head for jelly bean switches and things like that. But I think that we're going to look towards, they've got this Neuralink, I think it's called Neuralink. That would be what with Elon Musk, I think would be what he's doing. And if I'm correct, I believe they said that someone was able to control a computer using one of those neural links. So I think that's where we would go, is we would actually be able to kind of bypass any perhaps physical limitations and then be able to have these type of devices. But again, I still think it's going to take some level of learning. It's not just going to be a matter of, let's just, pop something in. I think the same for, a little bit off topic with the communication, but, we've got things like being able to use that technology, I think maybe for repairing, spinal cord injuries and things. But I think when it comes to cerebral palsy, like in brains being damaged, if you think about it, what cerebral palsy basically means is that your brain was damaged before, usually about the 12-month mark, and then you would call it a brain injury, I think, after about that point. And so if we were able to fix the parts of the brain that was damaged, that'd be great, except the fact that you never learn any of these things anyway. And what do we spend years doing when we're babies and toddlers? That's where we learn to, stand up or sit up, then crawl, then stand up on our feet and all of those type of things. So I think it would still be a matter of, learning. I don't know if there's anybody out there who knows more about this. It would be actually really interesting to find out. But I feel like in terms of communication, it's still going to come down to what's your physical ability and your ability to be able to learn. Because if we think about how much time we spend in school learning to be able to spell, it's a lot of time. And even to this day, even like some people out there who might be in their 50s, do you still have to recite the little poem about I before E except after C, which doesn't always work, and how to spell the 3 different theirs, and make sure you choose the right option. So there's all these things that we got taught that we probably still use to this day to make sure that our spelling is up to speed. But thankfully we have predictive text, although I think that it's not helping us. Our brains are getting a little bit lazy in some respect. But I just think that we're going to see some of those type of technologies come, and I think that would then open up the world for people. And maybe, there's been a few movies out where you could interpret what people are thinking. I don't know. Could it happen? Could be a little bit scary. Do we really want people to know everything we're thinking? I don't know, that movie that had, what was his name? Tom
Cruise.
Holland? The one who was Spider-Man?
Yeah.
There was this movie where you have to be able to control your thoughts, because pretty much anyone who comes in a certain vicinity from you can actually hear your thoughts. And actually watching that movie, I was like, that would be terrible. because you're trying to control your thoughts constantly. And the people who had better control over their thoughts were sort of like top dog. And if you have like these fearful thoughts, everybody could hear it a mile away.
Yeah.
So that was a bit scary. But if there was maybe a controlled way of being able to get people to be able to communicate from what they were thinking, that might be good.
I want them to change it on the eye gaze so like Sev or whoever else uses their eyes to communicate can use it in the sun. Because that's one of the downfalls is like you can't use it in the sun. Or if there's a little bit of sun touching it, you can't use it properly.
And maybe battery power as well. See, I was going like way into the future while you were just thinking about now. I've already skipped 20, 30 years ahead. And maybe with some of the AI, maybe some of that can help interpret things for people as well. But okay, sure. So you can use screens in the sun. And definitely better battery power, I think.
Yeah.
And some more emojis, because this thing has really cute emojis. Have you guys actually showed anybody these cute emojis that you can use? Is it actually the camera going to be able to pick it up?
I can move it.
Let's see if it can pick it up.
I probably just see it.
Oh, maybe you can add some images up on the video at some point. Okay, maybe zoom it in a little bit or something. You get your thingies ready. Oh, we're falling apart here. Okay, you ready?
That's how far I can zoom.
Do one of the funny ones. I like this one. What about this guy here?
I can move it closer.
That's a good laughing one, that one.
It's not making sound.
No, why is it not making the sound?
That's weird.
Hang on. What about the thumbs up one?
Yeah.
Oh, see? See like what cute things that they've got now? There you go. So it's got a whole bunch of those. Now this is, actually, can you do that one again? This is what I was talking about in terms of jelly bean switches for people in their head. Being able to put them up, mount them on headrests and being able to hit their head, not hit their head, but press against the button. That sounded terrible, hit your head. And what's you really can express yourself with these things. So even maybe some more emojis and animations.
Move your bums. There you go. Excuse me. Yeah. So like, if they can work on like people being able to use it in the sunshine.
Yeah, maybe do their raspberries in the sunshine. Yeah.
Fix it.
Shout out there to anybody.
Anyone listening or watching, please make it so we can use eye gaze in the sun.
Or maybe you need to have a little umbrella over it or something. Yeah,
Pops
that's
out.
right. Maybe like a sunshade or something that just comes over the top. There you go.
Yes, Noki, hang on, baby. I know. I'm gonna do it after. Give it 1 second.
What was the biggest milestone I have done with my communication?
Let's see. Biggest milestone. I would say probably the jump from the letterboards and things like that to the actual computers. And because to be able to do that as well, you need to be able to flip through. I don't think I probably explained that either. So it's not just a matter of Actually, on this one, it probably is, you can just spell things out, but you can also save things. On the ones prior to that, it more would have been words were actually programmed in there, and you had to be able to know how to jump from the various pages to pages. So I think that probably going from the letterboards to using the computers was probably the biggest milestone.
Yeah.
Even I think even moving to the iPad and being able to then transition into being able to train people. And again, I think because that meant that it seemed more, it was less of a barrier. People didn't think that that was such a weird thing. And you've got to admit, with this eye gaze, how many people are absolutely fascinated about how it works. So that kind of is a bit of an icebreaker right there, because people are like, hang on a second, how's that thing work? You know,
I do have some pictures, but mostly typing.
Of you typing?
Or pictures.
Oh, okay.
Like that's saved on, like, I don't feel well is like a band-aid.
Yeah, well, it's easier than having to type something out all the time, right? But yeah, I think that being able to use that kind of technology is probably the biggest jump, only because it meant that you then had so many more options in being able to work. And so, I mean, that's the thing, that you can actually go from not being able to work because you can't train people, and then being able to go and train people on various things like how to communicate with people who can't speak. Or, you know, there was the person-centered training. You know, the workshops are, you know, that you've done, and with on our own tracks has been, I found that support worker training amazing, actually. And I just think that opens up, you know, the playing field a little bit. And it's also being delivered, like the actual training is being delivered by somebody who has disability as well. Actually, I'm going to tell another funny story before we finish up. And this one, I think I mentioned it on another podcast episode. But essentially, what I was just thinking then is that it also gives you the ability to help train other people, teach other people how to use devices like this who may be in a similar position, or even just inspire somebody to give it a shot and know that it is possible, and give them some tips. But yeah, when you went from now this is probably what your biggest jump was from using things like jelly bean switches for scanning to actually using a keyboard with one finger, which I don't think you tend to do very much anymore, but you were very persistent and wanted to do it then. And then when one of your teachers asked you to train somebody else, show somebody else how to use the switches, she was like, nah, I'm not doing it. It took me a year to convince you to let me get off these things and go to the keyboard. I'm not showing anyone. So that was a little mean of you, but but at least you got the point across. So yeah, so probably a couple of those things, those big jumps with technology. But yeah, again, thank goodness that those things were able to be made available. Because I remember this story of a man who, once some of this technology came out, I believe that he grew up in Czechoslovakia, so it would have been communist still. And if memory serves me correct, he dove into a creek or something and broke his neck. And unfortunately, he didn't have any of the lovely equipment that you have. And he ended up being in a nursing home in a bed for a long time. And once they got him up and whatnot, he said, I've been lying here for 50 years thinking about that accident that I had. So communication is vital for people. It really is important that people have their opportunity to have their own voice. And I mean, you can even see, obviously, Stephen Hawking, before his disability progressed, he obviously had a brilliant mind and could do some amazing things. But if he didn't have access to some of this communication, we wouldn't have got his brilliant work from that point on, would we? So I think that there's brilliance in everybody, but they need to have an opportunity to be able to let that out, you know, so new ideas. I'm actually really excited that I'm going to be going and watching a show at the Opera House in November with one of your friends who's going to be in there. But some of the other people, I believe, will be using some communication devices. And that's pretty exciting, I think. You know, that's definitely leveled the playing field for people.
Yeah. Yes, Noki, I know, baby. Hang on a darling. Hang on. Oh, we're dying. We haven't had food in 50 years. I'm starving.
And it means that we've been able to move past just being able to stare and eyeball people.
Please. Okay, we'll finish up, babies. Okay, let me finish.
Come on, mister. Get down.
Thank you all for watching. Next episode is Pets with Disabilities.
Yes, we have some in store for you.
We might talk a little bit about Noki's, but I think she also has her own episode coming up too.
Oh. Do you have your own episode coming up?
Maybe.
You lucky girl.
See, I don't know what's happening.
Okay, let's be honest. Dogs make life funner, right? Not that that's a word, but anyway.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
It definitely helps. And if people could I think if they left a comment about what they'd like to learn about or hear about, that'd be pretty awesome too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Stay pink and yellow.
I'm pink.
I'm
I'll have to get some yellow hair. Does this count? I was never brave enough to go pink like that. Just leave Seb to do that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which I think you gotta dye your hair before we go. Before we fly to the UK. Right. Bye.